Now I'm going to make the marinara sauce, and I call this Vincenza's marinara sauce because when I was in chiropractic college, I lived above this restaurant in Toronto. It was called Allo Bistro, and I had an Italian mother named Vincenza. I spent more time in the kitchen in the restaurant than I did up in the kitchen in my apartment. To make this sauce, you need some tomatoes. Canned tomatoes work really well. These are the San Marzano canned tomatoes. I like them because they're really high quality tomatoes. They're Italian and they're in sauce already. So you don't have the runny, watery canned tomatoes you get at the grocery store normally. I get these at Costco. You can get them in the small can or this big can. I like using this because I don't need to open 4 of these cans. I already have one open that I'll be using. You take either 3 medium onions or 2 large ones. I have 8 cloves of garlic here and fresh basil. That just makes the sauce delicious. And it's all cooked in some olive oil. What I'm going to do is I'll chop up a clove of garlic. Now, because I'm a chiropractor, I have this thing about my hands. I don't like them smelling like garlic. So I just use this spoon to hold it. You don't have to worry about chopping it too fine because it all kind of blends. And either you're going to simmer this for 2.5 hours in a pot on the stove, or if you like to make things happen faster, like I do, I put it in the Instant Pot. And I just love this Instant Pot. It was all a rage. I didn't know why everyone was so crazy about them, but now that I have one, I love it. So I'm just going to put this garlic in with the other cloves that I chopped earlier. That makes a total of 8 cloves. Let's chop one of these onions up. Just get that outer skin off. There we go. Let's add them to this bowl here. And now we're ready to go to the pot. I always make sure that I have my tomatoes open before I start frying because I've burnt my garlic many times going, oh crap, I need to open 4 of these cans. So let's just turn this Instant Pot to saute. That's the beauty of it. It actually becomes a fry pan. I'm going to add, for one of these cans, the big can, I use 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Just add them in. Sometimes I just guesstimate with my wooden spoon. Actually, usually that's what I do. In there. And let's just add our onions. Garlic. And that's just going to heat up and sizzle. And we want to reduce, or actually get the onions to become nicely softened so they become kind of translucent. And that just usually takes about 2 or 3 minutes. So you'd get your cans open, and then you add the tomatoes and you add the basil, and that's it. You just simmer it for 10 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll program the manual setting on here for 10 minutes. I cook it under pressure, and instead of having to wait 2.5 hours for that sauce to simmer on the stovetop, you have it ready in 10, 11 minutes. And then what I do is I puree it. Now, I wanted to make the sauce very early on because I use this sauce as a staple. It goes on my pizza, it goes on pasta. Tonight it's being served with the meatballs. but I always like to keep some in the freezer on hand. And I never just make a small amount because it's the same amount of work to make a big batch, and it's so useful to have around. I always like to pull it out, and it makes all the difference when I'm making pizza because it's not store-bought sauce. The taste is so much better. The other thing that we want to do is season the sauce, and this is salt. It's the coarse salt, and I'll be putting 2 teaspoons in. So let's just see how this is coming along. So the onions and garlic have been cooking in the olive oil for a few minutes, and now they're nice and soft. It's time to add the tomatoes. The problem with the big can is it can be messy, so I'm going to scoop some with a spoon. It's a little easier dumping the small cans in here. Otherwise you get a big splash. There we go. Not too much damage control to do here. Tomatoes in. Just give it a little stir to mix, and now we need to add the fresh basil. So you just make sure all the leaves get ripped off your basil here. Take the stems out. As much basil as you have, just add it in. A couple of handfuls works well. And now we'll add 2 teaspoons of coarse salt. I'll give it a quick stir to mix everything together, and then the Instant Pot's going to do its work. I just have to turn off the saute function, make sure it's on seal, and now I want manual. I set it for 11 minutes, and when it gets to temperature, it will start. So we just let this do its work, and that means it's on and it's ready to go. And the sauce is pretty much done. All we need to do is, after the 10 minutes are done, we puree it and it's ready to use. Now that the sauce is cooked, we're going to puree it. And for that, I'll use my hand blender, the immersion blender. Just plug it in. We need to bring the Instant Pot over here. And I need to depressurize it. It is. Open that up. And by now the tomatoes should be nicely broken up. There we go, yeah. So when they can crush against the side, what we can do is blend them with the immersion blender. Make sure you get it well in there, you don't want any splatters. Depending how chunky you like it, you can leave some tomato chunks in there. You can also use a masher to make a thicker, lumpier sauce. Now the beauty with these San Marzano tomatoes is that they're so thick, you don't have to thicken the sauce at all, and you don't have to simmer off all the water. That smells delicious. The basil's so nice. Now, we don't need all this sauce for the meatballs, so I'm gonna put away some. The big can of tomatoes makes approximately 3 of these containers full of sauce, so I'm going to remove 2 of them. You can see how nice and rich this sauce is. Beautiful red color. That's the bread. You don't get this nice color if you use the cheaper tomatoes from the grocery store. And so by leaving one of these containers in there, you end up with enough sauce to coat the meatballs. If you're making meatballs. And this is the marinara sauce. It's ready to use. It's ready to use directly on pasta. You can cook meat in it. If you want to cook chicken in the fry pan and put some of the sauce on it, it's wonderful for tossing in pasta. You can put it on pizza. It's just so versatile, and I wanted to make sure that I had a recipe done for you so that we can refer to it in future episodes.